my brothers, my sisters. This is Reverend Aki Aheen coming to you live from the Mountain of Eagles Ministries. I'm here today to teach, preach, pray, and prophesy into your lives about what thus says the Lord and the words that will lead us not only in life, but life more abundantly. I'm here today to talk to you about a few things because we're coming into a brand new year. We're into the 12th day. We're just getting started, and there's some things we need to put in place to get us through this new year. And I just want to talk to you today about a very important subject. And I want to title this, Have You Counted the Cost? See, there's some things we did last year that cost us. It cost us relationships. It cost us financially. It cost us spiritually. It cost us physically. Some of us health went down because we didn't count the cost. So I'm here today just to bring some things out to you about what can happen if you don't count the cost. Be right back. Okay, you probably can't see the shirt all the way what I got on, but it says keep it 100. And it's a lot of dollar bills on here because we're talking about counting the cost. Let me read the scripture, then we'll go back, okay? And this is coming to you from Luke 14:28, okay? Luke chapter 14, verses 28. And here's what it says. It says, for which of you intended to build a tower sitteth not down first and count the cost, whether ye have sufficient to finish it? Least happily after he have laid the foundation is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, laugh at you, in other words, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish it. You got any friends like that? Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consult whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him that comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an ambassador and desire conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever he be of you that forsake not all he cannot be my disciples. I'm going to go back to 28. Now, like I said in the very beginning, we're at the very beginning of the year. We need to really sit down and figure out what is it we're trying to do, where do we need to go, what is going to cost me to get there, and am I willing to pay the cost to get there? Because if I'm not, then ain't no need to start in the journey. But if I'm willing to pay the price, if I'm willing to pay the cost, as long as it's not too high, then I'm able to get there. It says, and this is not me. This is what the Bible is saying. So if you got issues with this, you got to talk to God about it. Amen. For which of you intending to build a tower, sitteth down not first and count the cost, whether you have sufficient to finish it? Okay. Maybe you just want to build a business this year. Maybe you want to grow your ministry, but you need to sit down and figure out what it's going to cost besides all the other things you got going on. Because listen, if you're going to build a house, that's one bill in of itself that got nothing to do with all the other things you got going on. Your electric bill, your gas bill, your heating, the gas to run the car payment if you have one, the food you have to buy. Listen, I've seen people make budgets and blow the budget because they don't put everything in the budget. They only put the big ticket items in the budget. In other words, they don't allow for weddings. But when weddings come, you buy wedding presents or you give money. which depending on how many weddings you go to, that could end up adding to a cost. There are funerals that come up, and people like myself and some others, of us out there want to give somebody something to help them through these hard times. Don't have to be a huge amount, but if you do that enough, especially with this COVID going on, if you do that enough time during the year, it's gonna incur a cost. And if that's not in the budget, then you just blew the budget. Do you see what I'm saying? That there's other things. You got pastors' anniversary, you got tithes, offerings. That if that's not included in the budget, you don't have a budget. So the house is going to end up not getting built because you didn't count the cost of everything that was involved. Least happily after he has laid the foundation, is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him. And listen, if you do it in secret, won't a whole lot of people laugh. But most of if we go build, oh man, I'm gonna build me a new house, I'm gonna start me a new business. We know we don't mind telling people. But when you do that, you better have sat down and count the cost of what it's gonna take to do this. Because if you don't, and it don't work out, people are gonna laugh at you. Not only are they gonna laugh, they'll say, "Oh, well, he ain't nothing, but he a fool anyway. He knew he didn't have enough when he started." You gotta count the cost. It's now saying that this man began the building, was not able to finish. Now, if you're gonna do it, you gotta finish it. My wife will tell you about me. She'll say, "Aki, will you do this for me?" And I'll get up to do it right then and there. She said, "You don't have to do it right now. You do it." No. Because if I wait till later, something might get in the way and stop me. If I do it right now, I know it's done, it's out the way, and I can sit back and relax. Because I don't count the cost over the years of putting things off till later and they don't get done. But if I do it right then and there, I know it's going to get done. Because through the years, I've counted the cost on this particular situation. It said, or when a king going to make war against another king, sitteth not down and first and consulted whether he's able to come against him, that if he got 10,000 against him, they got 20,000. You believe me, military people do this all the time. They count the cost. They sit there and say, okay, we got this many men. We can put them in this area, put them in that area. But if this happens, this won't happen. And we'll need an X amount of men for this. Or we don't have enough men. Maybe we need to find another way, or hold off till we're full able to fight this war. They count the cost all the time. They just don't go to the war. Why you think they had all these weapons built up with the major powers back there with USR and America and different ones? They had all these stockpile, all these weapons, because they was counting, if we go to war, we're going to need all these. So they was counting the cost. So if the government and everybody else counts these costs, we need to count them too. Now, here's another thing too. So, and they use a phrase here, but we need to do the same thing with other things. Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sent an ambassador and desired the conditions of peace. If the issue haven't got to you yet, and you see them coming, maybe we could talk a peace talk to keep you out of my territory till I could build up enough to defend myself. Because ain't no point in me getting into this war or this fight, and I know I can't win. There's no point. The best thing I can do is see if we can get a reasonable, peaceful negotiation going so I can win it. And that's the same thing with things in our lives. Sometimes we've gotten so... There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. You really need to get it. Especially if you're in debt over your head and you're trying to get out, this book will help you with it. The Richest Man in Babylon, it tells you, you need to go to these creditors and say, hey, listen, I got behind COVID-19, did this, that, and the third doesn't happen. I need to hold off, see if you hold off for a while till I can get my finances right and can pay this. What arrangements can we make? And you can do that. And when you do that, you've held them at bay until now you get into a place where you can take care of yourself, you can defend yourself, you can pay it off and still keep your credit in pretty good condition. But most people don't want to make the call. Don't think that far. They haven't counted the cost, because if you don't do that, then you're scared to answer the phone call. They call it every 15 seconds. And now, man, they put that thing on auto. They ain't worried, because you used to say, well, they'll get tired of calling. You can't do that no more, because they put it on automatic now, and automatically it just keeps calling, keeps calling, keeps calling. They ain't gonna get tired. So you need to just to solve that problem, call them and make arrangements. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he had, he cannot be my disciple. I'm, you know what? And this whole story is about Jesus telling them, you got to listen, because people want to follow him. He said, hey, look, there's a cost to following me. You know, there's some sacrifices for following me. There's going to be some family members that turn against you to follow me. And if you love them more than you love me, ain't no point in coming, because you're going to end up turning back anyway. There's some sacrifice that you're not used to making that you're going to have to make to follow me. So you need to count this cost down. There's going to be some crosses to bear. Man, look, there's going to be some sleepless nights. There's going to be some hungry days. There's going to be some cold nights. So if you ain't willing to go through that, then don't bother. You stay where you are. But if you're gonna come, count the cost first. Now, listen, there's in the Bible, back when everything in Genesis, when everything got started, we got a young man who did not count the cost. And because he didn't count the cost, it caused problems from there to now. And it says, this is Genesis chapter 3, verse 6 and 7. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just wanted you to get this. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for fruit, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Let me do 8 too. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. Now, he did not count the cost. He had no real clue of what he did when he took a bite of the forbidden fruit. Now, I'm not trying to exegete this passage in and of itself. We're talking about counting the cost, not what all took place here, because until he took a bite, nothing happened. It's when he took a bite that their eyes flew open, because he could have died for her instead of with her. But that's a whole nother sermon. So because he didn't count the cost, he had been told if he do it, they gonna die. And whether he truly understood that or not is not what we're talking about. He didn't count the cost. If he had counted the cost of what it was going to cost him because of this one act, not 10, 20, 30, 40, one act that he did, he would not have done it. Sometimes we just don't count the cost. We just do stuff on emotions. Why do you think when you go shopping, they have these what they call impulse buying items at the counter? Because you at the counter waiting to be waited on, and you look, oh, let me get this magazine. Oh, let me get this. Now, again, you throwing your budget out the window, because these are not a part of the budget. But because that's why they call it impulse buying. They know that you impulsively, without thinking, you will buy these things. That's why they put them there. And when you get finished, you done added another $5, $10, $15, $20 just standing there that you hadn't counted the cost of. If you do that enough times, whatever budget you had is gone. And back to Adam. Now, remember, they was in a perfect situation. It didn't rain. The mist came up from the ground. watered the land. I mean, he didn't have to work. He tilled it. He just made sure everything stayed nice. He pruned the garden. Whatever he had to do to make it look nice. He didn't work. He didn't sweat. And then his muscles didn't hurt. None of that stuff. They just enjoyed life. They just walked by, picked fruit. Every time they picked one, it was perfect. It tasted good. It was sweet like it's supposed to be. Didn't have to add no sugars or nothing to it because it was perfect. So they had the best life you could have. Satan didn't want him to have it, so he tricked Eve into tricking him, and because he didn't count the cost. Now, I'm not going to go through it all. You need to read this for yourself, but because they didn't count the cost of what was going to happen by eating this forbidden fruit, because the act of eating the forbidden fruit was an act of disobedience, which is the first sin. Disobedience is a sin. Let nobody fool you. So, and because of this, guess what? Cain killed Abel. The first murder ever was because of their act. Eve had to suffer childbirth, pain, and hurt because they didn't count the cost. Tell Adam, you're going to work by the sweaty. I know a lot of us hate that deal. Working by the sweat of our brow. The ground we're not going to give it up like it used to give it up freely and easily. Now we're going to have to work for it. That he didn't count the cost. So now he's suffering through it. Long cost. Now you think about this. Because of what he did, every rape, every murder, every time something gets stolen, anytime all these wars that take place is a direct result of this act of disobedience. Because if he had counted the cost, had not eaten that forbidden fruit, none of this stuff would have took place. But because of his act of disobedience, didn't count the cost, all these other things took place. I'm here today to tell you that if you don't count the cost in your life, you're going to pay a far-reaching penalty for all the things that's going on in your life. You don't believe me? How many times have you heard coaches and football players say, you know what? I was so into coaching, I didn't spend enough time with my family, and I lost next thing I knew, my kids in college, and I don't even know when they grew up. The wife knew, but the husband didn't. Didn't count the cost. There's more divorce in church now than ever because people are not counting the cost. They say, I'm going to marry you through sickness and sin, but then you get sick, then they don't want to do it. They say, well, we can't make it because we irreconcilable differences, so they don't count the cost. But somewhere along the line, somebody got to stand up and say, you know what? Before I enter into this relationships that's supposed to be under death do us part, let me count the cost. Let me see if this is something am I willing to pay the price to make it work? That's the problem. We're not willing to pay the price to make it work. Because if we were willing to pay the price to make it work, you wouldn't have people. Everybody can make one mistake. But when you get people getting married 4, 5, 6, 7 times, the issue ain't with the other people. The issue with you. You ain't count the cost. Now, you've heard me say, and this is not a financial, this is trying to get you to think, the year is coming in. I got 11 more months to get through. I need to sit down right now, make my plan, and not only make the plan, but work the plan to make it work, to show that so that I can get through this year without a whole lot of penalties, a whole lot of suffering, a whole lot of losing my family, losing my children, losing my wife. Now, listen, I understand a lot of you are not sports advocates as I am, but there was a team called the Cleveland Browns. Just played the other night, played against Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody thought Pittsburgh was going to kill Cleveland. Now, listen to why I'm telling you this. This is not about the game. This is about principles. Cleveland, now Pittsburgh had their coach and their coaches on the sideline. Cleveland coach wasn't there. Assistant coach wasn't there. There was another coach that wasn't there. They had three coaches missing, so there wasn't nobody on the sideline to tell them what to do. So they came into this game, but see, the cost had already been counted because they had put a game plan into place during the year. When they got to this place, the coach didn't have to. It would have been nice if he could have been there, but he didn't have to be there because they had the game plan. And because they had the game plan, they worked the plan, and they didn't just win the game, they spanked Pittsburgh. Now think about it. Pittsburgh had the coaches, had their players, had all this going on for them. Cleveland couldn't practice because of the COVID-19 that had struck their team. They couldn't have practice. They didn't have no coaches. And here it is. Nobody gave them a chance to win this game. But because they already had a plan, they had counted the cost, they put it in place, they worked the plan, they succeeded and won. You can do the same thing. You got time. They didn't wait till the game to get ready. They started getting ready at the beginning of the season. Well, this is the beginning of your season. Start getting ready. Start putting your plan together. Start counting the cost. What it's going to cost me. Listen, this is a piece of advice that's free to you. If you really want to budget, if you really want to win, what you need to do is find out how much you actually spending. No guesstimations, because it's going to blow the budget, going to blow it. And I'm not a great believer in budgets, but I do know if you got one, you could do a lot better than you are. You got to count everything. I mean, when I say everything, I mean everything. If you in the Wawa and you buy a candy bar, you buy a bag of potato chips, that need to be counted. Coffee need to be counted. Every time you buy something impulsively, need to be counted. Every time you do anything different than normal, that's not a part of your normal budget, needs to be counted. Because there's some anniversaries that come up that you add money, that you spend money for that need to be counted. Weddings, funerals, all that need to be put in there. And at the end of the, and once you've done this for a solid month, you got a pretty good idea of what you're spending. Now that you know what you're spending, I can start making a plan for how much money I need to make this year to not only cover this, but so I could double it. Because if I double it, I won't be rich, but I can live pretty comfortably because I can pay my bills, not stress out, and still have money to do things I want to do. I can still take some trips. I can still do some, and not have to put it on a credit card. I mean, don't get me, I'm not saying don't put it on, but if you put it on there, you got to pay it off immediately. Because if you don't, all you're doing is prolonging the agony. It's going to happen sooner or later. We have to learn how to count the cost. I'm here today. The book I told you about, The Richest Man in Babylon, there will be a link in the description below. So if you like not buy it for me, but it's because I've read it, I know it by heart. Buy it for somebody, give it. You know what? And I need to get back to doing this. I used to get this to all the young people when they're young, so they could put this in place in their lives. How to get out of debt, how to keep out of debt, how to pay themselves first. All these things that need to be at the young. So when they get our ages, they're not struggling. They're not depending on the Social Security, not depending on the government. The only thing they're depending on is themselves. So I'll put a link in below, The Richest Man in Babylon. You can just click on it, buy it from somebody, buy it for yourself. And through that, you'll be supporting the ministry. If you decide that you don't want to do that, great. Because I'm still going to bless you anyway. I love what I do. I want to give you the word. I want you to understand that there's so many things that you can do to make your life better, to grow it, to enjoy life to its fullest. That's what God wants for you. The word said, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, nor has it entered into the hearts of man what God has prepared for those who love him. As long as you count the cost and don't be foolish, you can have it and do it. Amen. Listen, My time is about up. Please hit the like button because it'll grow. Every time you hit the like button, YouTube see it. They say, okay, God doing good. We'll help his ministry grow. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe don't cost you nothing. And hit the notification bell every time I do one of these. It'll notify that it's there. You can look. Listen, I'm not gonna do nothing that's not in the Bible. Every time I do this, I'm reading it from the Bible. And leave a comment. I want to hear the comments. God bless you. God keep you. God watch over you. Have a blessed and godly day. For what is a good day except it be a godly day? See ya.